Welcome back, everyone, to another Kaiserreich country overview. And this time we're going to be looking at Norway. Now, Norway, one of the last nations to receive an update in the latest patch. And it is pretty interesting. Now, your starting national spirit is sluggish economy. That is because the Norwegian economy historically has been very reliant on the merchant marine and trade. And the main trading partner was Britain. Of course, after 1925, with the revolution in the British Isles, that was not really much of an option. And because of past disagreements with Germany, Norway can join the Zollverein, or the German Free Trade Zone in Central Europe, partner to Mitteleuropa. This might get changed in a new patch. It's something that's on the chopping block, but yeah. And so what ends up happening is that Norway is kind of alone out in the world in the economic sphere. So lots of economic modifiers that you're going to have to, in some way, deal with. Now, with the focus tree, it's pretty expansive. You have a sort of political line down the south, 3 different paths. Of course, we're going to take a look at them, but first, we're going to take a look at the rest of the focus tree. Now, the economy stuff deals with how you're going to get, in part, rid of the sluggish economy. And then you get a lot of interesting little focuses, lots of industrial growth that is there. Actually, about 7 civilian factories, something like that. And, well, quite a few military factories as well. Research, things like the Oslo Analyzer, which gives you events. And those give you bonuses to research for electronics. And, research slots, synthetic refineries. So you get a lot of high-tech stuff. You get a bit of resources and some industrial companies. So overall, pretty well made. You have a little bit of an army line. And at the end, you either get the Fleischer plan, which would be like the superior firepower, or Ruges plan, which would be the, I believe, no, it's just any land doctrine. Yeah, okay. Although I believe, yeah, the Fleischer's plan is more focused on firepower, whereas this one is more focused on planning and manpower. So it's just that, to be honest, nothing really too major. And you can, of course, get at the end either artillery production cost or infantry equipment production cost. The Navy and Air Force are a little more interesting. The Air Force, you actually have focuses that add units of planes to you, which is quite interesting. And some national spirits, of course, some modifiers. It's just all very, very unique. And then you also get the DNL, which is the Norwegian carrier, civilian airlines. And then that gives you an event. The DNL wishes to expand. You're going to get an event where you can either spend more resources and then at the end get some bonuses in exchange, or you can just say, no, fuck you. And whatever you do, you get a design company, which is, of course, quite fine. The Navy one is interesting. It deals with the way the Norwegian Navy was set up, both in real life, I believe, and in Kaiserreich, which is that they have these Panzerskip, these heavy coastal defense cruisers. You have 2 of them at the start, but you have more that are mothballed. So they're actually like present, but they're just not in service. So you have 2 at the start, and you can choose to renovate these and turn them into the tier 2 version. I believe later on with, where is it? I believe this Panzerskip and cruiser. Yeah, the new Panzerskip construction. And then you also get the Panzerskip question, which let's actually just quickly have this so that you can see it. And as you can see, it's going to give you this event. And you're like, we need the ships, put them back into service, or upgrade and modernize what we can. Now, we need the ships right now is just, it gives you like 4 tier 1s, whereas upgrade and modernize what we can, I believe, you wait, and after a while, you're going to get the ships anyway. But this is what happens, and oh look, I have 4 more. Actually, these are pre-Weltkrieg heavy cruisers, so not as good, definitely, as the tier 1 heavy cruisers. And the second one would give them to you, but after a while. You also have this Nortra ship, which is interesting because it adds 500 convoys. It's a little bit of the same situation as Liberia, I believe. Where is Liberia? Liberia. There is something... Yes, convenient convoys. This one. Here it only adds 30. Yeah, that's... Yeah, it only adds 30s, but here it adds 500. So you can imagine how many convoys that is. That is because Norway was one of the countries that actually did sort of a scheme to increase their merchant marine, which is to say they let everybody, or every ship, fly the Norwegian flag at sea, just to increase their numbers and add these ships to the Norwegian ship registry. So that is an interesting tactic, and this is just the Norwegian Shipping and Trade Mission, and of course that requisitions the merchant marine. In fact, in real life, the Norwegian merchant marine was part of the reason why Norway was so fought over during World War II by Germany and Britain, because they both wanted to seize control over the merchant marine of Norway. So that's a pretty interesting little tidbit. And yeah, so this is just like normal stuff. You get some dockyards, you get some free light cruisers, you get some free panzer skips, and that's of course quite good. Or you get some free submarines, or you can get some free destroyers. I recommend going down the left-hand side, of course. But yeah, and then you get the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing, which is the political stuff. Now, with the politics, the way they work is that you have a center-left coalition with liberals, the Venstre, or left, I believe that means, and the NSA, NSA, Norges Sosialdemokratiske Arbeiderparti, or the Norwegian Social Democratic Labour Party. Then you have a right-wing coalition of the Bondepartiet, the Conservatives, and the Federlandslaget, which is the Farmers' Party. Then you have the ultra-right-wing, the National Samling, which is Quisling's little faction, and the DNL, but if you take over as Quisling, you're going to turn into National Populist. So there's actually, I might show it to you if I get the time. And yeah, you just turn National Populist anyway. And then you have the Revolutionary Left, aka the Norwegian Communist Party, NKP, which reforms into the Totalist Union or National Syndicalist Union or something like that. And then you have the Norsk Syndikalistisk Forbund, or the Norwegian Syndicalist Union. And yeah, so you have these sort of three major camps, that being the Democratic camp, which is both the center-left coalition and the right-wing coalition, and they have the Democratic Mandate path. And then you have the ultra-right wing with Quisling, and then you have the ultra-left wing with you know, the syndicalists. And let's just go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? Now, I'll go ahead and load up the election save. The elections, which happen in, I believe, November? Let me see. October. Never mind. So you have these three choices, right? So you can either have the Conservative and Farmers' Party, in which case... Oh, actually, it's the Liberals that become the ruling party. Damn. Okay, never mind. So I'm an idiot. Yeah, and that's like one of the default choices, I guess you could say. The most default choice is the Social Democrats and the Venstre. But then you can also have the Radical Socialist Win. Now, notice that there's no option for National Populists, and I'll show you why. Because if you choose the Radical Socialists, of course, you get an event to choose a prime minister. Not that big of a deal. You become, of course, Radical Socialist. So you have the Arbeiderpartiet, or the Workers' Party, take control. And then you start to get a bunch of bad events, like the Conservatives are opposing you. As you can see, your flag is still that. You're called the Norwegian Socialist Republic, but you're a workers' government within the monarchy. As you can see, Hakon the Seventh is still the king of Norway. You just have radical socialist ministers and all of that. Then you have people criticizing you. I hope that this goes relatively quick so that I don't have to sit here talking forever. But what ends up eventually happening is that the scope of the socialist reform, so you take major reform. If you take minor reform, I believe you just stay like this. Not entirely sure. But if you take major reform, whatever it is happens, it happens faster because you're trying to have a more radical mandate. And as you can see, this happens. So this morning, Vidkun Quisling occupied a studio at the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation and started broadcasting on the radio. He announced that Parliament would pass a motion of no confidence against the government on the following day. To keep the peace and secure an orderly transition of power, Samfunnsvernet would mobilize and protect important public institutions. Samfunnsvernet, by the way, is like the paramilitary wing of the National Samling. In the end, Quisling justified these actions by blaming the government for its dangerous revolutionary plans. As the guardsmen took to the streets, the police refused to take action. Clashes soon developed between the guardsmen and the workers' militias, and the situation rapidly escalated. So, of course, you have a sort of civil war happen in Oslo. You have Quisling trying to take over. The unions mobilize and induce a general strike. And then the hour of decision. At this point, you can either say the workers' militias take the capital and proclaim a republic, or you can have the nationalist Norway and have the right-wing militias capture parliament and form a government. So you end up going in and being like this. And actually, no, you're not Nat Pop. You used to be Nat Pop. Oh well, anyway. So yeah, you're Vidkun Quisling, and your focus tree, as opposed to what the others have, is more aggressive. So you get claims on Greenland and Sermeswak, which is, I believe, an island, or maybe it's, no, it's just, maybe it's a part of Greenland, is it? Yeah, it's a part of Greenland. And you get the claims on this, and I believe there's also a way to... Yep, the Greenland question. So what happens is the Danish can either refuse or accept your claims. So right now, if I take the auto-completion again, I can show you. So you get the consolidation of power and whatever. Then one of the lines is going down sort of social and economic changes that you're going to be making to your society. And then another one is for the foreign policy. And this is a pattern that repeats itself throughout all these three branches. So with the sort of social economic policies, you get a way to reduce and destroy your bad national spirits. You get research slots, and you get this construction efficiency modifier, the Arbeitsjeneste, which is a bit like the Arbeiterdienst in Germany. This is like a labor corps that's, in a way, like, conscripted. And then this one, this left-hand side, is kind of interesting. The Rikshirden, because, okay, so the armed forces of Norway apparently cannot be trusted, right? So you start off and you have your, 7, 9-ish infantry divisions. So Norway doesn't start with the biggest military ever. But you do have ways to improve that. You do have this pretty good focus tree path. But if you don't like it, you can just take the Rikshird, and the focus will replace the army officer corps with the leadership of the Rikshird and close the army tree and remove all army national spirits. So right now I don't have army national spirits, but imagine I do, and you take the Rikshirden, and after that you cannot take the 1933 army plan because you have Hird supremacy. So it's a little bit like the SS. Like you give the SS too much power or something, and so they replace the army or something like that. And the Hirden is basically the paramilitary wing that you form. And the Hird supremacy decreases your defense, but increases your attack and your recruitable population, sort of representing that this is a paramilitary organization, so it's more like grassroots, more rooted in the territory, and then more attack because they're like fanatical and you know, all of that. So you know, you also replace the army leadership with the leadership of the Hird. So as you can see, the army generals that you had before are, you know, changed. Generally, the Hird generals are worse, but they get cool uniforms, I guess. I don't know, whatever. They do have some traits. I mean, you can get skill pretty easily. You can build that up. So then you can also get, you know, technology from that. So close air support 1 and fighter 1 for free. Thank you very much. The Hirdmarinen, not really anything that great. So this is like the 2 different branches for the Hird. You know, the air branch and the navy branch. And then the Führergard is an infantry division that you get in Oslo. So you actually get a free infantry division as well, full equipped with, you know, 9 battalions and a lot of stuff. So pretty good. And then, of course, once you're ready and able, you can get yourself some claims. For example, you can be like, demand Greenland, and, you know, Denmark refuses, and you can either declare war or back down. You can have claims on Sweden and have an event for that, and either be like, yes, let's restore Norway proper and try to regain these lands. They probably will refuse. Again, these are very much based on the armed force strength of Norway as opposed to these other countries. So if you have much superior armies to them, which is unlikely but can happen, they're gonna fold much more easily. And of course, it gives you claims on all of these provinces all over that are supposed to be, you know, part of Greater Norway and all of that. You also get something for Finland, you know, Petsamo, and you're like, no, they refuse. And up here, this helps you with expanding, of course, because you end up kind of taking over Scandinavia if you can do that correctly, and it kind of helps to alleviate the major problem with Norway, which is the manpower. Manpower is very low. As you can see, the core population available is 2.96 million. And that's about after a year of growing population, which of course not that much, but still, like, it's not a lot of population that they start off with, because Norway may look pretty big, but it's a lot of barren land that's worthless. Most of the population is actually concentrated around Ostlandet over here and Vestlandet, with a little tiny bit around where is it? There's like one state that's hard to look at. Right, Trondheim. Although, no, actually, it's got less than I thought. Trondheim, I believe, is this independent state because someone can claim this province, and I believe it's Germany? I believe Germany can get Trondheim as like a treaty port. I don't know, I don't remember. I really don't remember. I think it's in the oil stuff? No, it's not in the oil. From the Caucasus, from Mesopotamia, from Venezuela. No. I'm thinking of modern day with Norwegian oil. There's no Norwegian oil right about now. Yeah, I don't know. There was something that dealt with Trondheim being demanded by a major foreign power, but I can't remember. Anyway, so that's the nationalist stuff. If you, in that event that you remember, choose the syndicalist path, you get something like this, which I'll show you. And you just choose the syndicalists instead of choosing the nationalist in the Day of Decision event. You get the Norwegian Socialist Republic with the syndicalist party in charge. And the main sort of focus tree for them, I believe it's like the smallest of the three. Although, I mean, the nationalist one isn't that big either, so I guess it's actually pretty much on par. It's the democratic one that's much bigger. The main event is the People's Constitution, which is kind of underwhelming, to be honest. It's just a few events that deal with the constitution of the new Norway. So you're going to be getting these events, like, do you want more power to the central government? Maybe, maybe not. and you get different modifiers if you do that or not. And unfortunately, see, I thought that this would end up being a bit like the TUC elections or the communal elections for the Commune of France and the Union of Britain, where it would change your ruling faction, your ruling syndicalist faction, depending on who won or not. But unfortunately, it does not. It only gives you the syndicalist constitution. Oh, syndicalist constitution. Maybe there's a way to get totalist constitution. Is it? Oh, let's see, let's try. I believe I picked the other one earlier. Yes. Oh no, it's just modify syndicalist constitution. So it's just what you get. And yeah, you stay syndicalist. So that's unfortunate. Unfortunate it is. I would like for that to be, you know, whoever comes out on top. Like if you choose more centralistic, centralizing policies, you get the totalists. If you choose more middle of the road, you get syndicalist. Like for example, if you have more centralizing political policies, but local, I guess, decentralized economic policies, you get the syndicalists. And then if you choose everything decentralized, you get the radical socialists. But I don't know, that's just like a thought, you know? It's not necessary. Like, I don't exactly know if these parties have any flavor of their own, so I don't really know what they actually stand for. Anyway, you get economic reorganization, integrate red guards. So of course, like the red, oh damn it, I did not turn autocomplete on. So of course, like the red guards that helped you take over and defeat the nationalists become your, you know, well, they don't really become your military, but you can integrate them and you get some militia divisions and some manpower. So of course, that is welcome. Events, go away. You get the 3-year plan, which is a pretty nice little economic bonus. Some bonuses, and of course a research slot, which ends up being given to every ideology. And then once you have those things, I just wanted to show you the Red Guard militias. Okay. And the other paths for the syndicalists are, of course, about spreading the revolution. So, Red Guards, pretty much what you'd expect. Arbeider or Arbeidermiliz. And it's just nothing too particularly interesting. But that's about what you'd expect. Now, interestingly, you don't get any new generals, I believe. Now, I believe all these are the regular ones, which is kind of unfortunate, because I wouldn't have minded to see like unique syndicalist generals and all that. And you also have the chance of messing with Sweden, supporting unions over there, which should improve the popularity of the radical socialists and syndicalists. There's also a chance that if you do that, Sweden will declare war on you. So be a little bit careful when you support Swedish unions. You can conduct war games, which gives you that, and of course, they also have a chance to declare war on you. They did not take it. And the other thing that you can do is join the International on the other side, getting the help of the Phalansteer International, which, if France accepts, will give you back some factories. You know, free factories, always pretty good. And get military aid, and be like, oh no, the Swedish ultimatum. And if you take that, okay. And if you take that, you're going to remove the defensive army mentality, and Sweden will declare war. So, of course, you also get some help from the Commune of France, and, well, this one bypassed. Of course, you can join the International once you're at peace with Sweden, and then the other thing that you get is the Company Lingen, which just gives you a bunch of bad events to Sweden, because these are a little bit like the RED in the Union of Britain. It's like a sabotage squad, and they just really wreak a lot of havoc within Sweden. So that's the syndicalist path, and now let's go for the last one, which is the democratic one. The democratic one. I wonder what this is supposed to be. If I saved this, there must be a reason, but I'm not quite sure. Alright, yeah, so this is the democratic path. You can do this by both going with the, what's it called? The Conservative Coalition and the Liberal Social Democratic Coalition. Pretty much no real change between those, and, well, I mean, there are some changes, but yeah. You can have some interesting stuff with these. So that you either have the chance of reaffirming neutrality, but no one ever does that, even though these are like very good bonuses. Very good bonuses. In fact, they're probably better, but they don't really have all that much flavor up to them. And the other option is international relations, so being a more proactive Norway on the world stage. One thing that you can do that's very cool is kind of fix the sluggish economy, not by doing any like radical restructuring of the society, which is what you're doing with the syndicalists and the nationalists, but by getting trade agreements. So of course, Norway is very much dependent on trade for its economy, and you can send trade delegations to various countries like Canada, Germany, and of course Russia. Another trade event that you get is at the start. The first one that you actually get is, by default, you get a trade with Japan. So, yeah. And then, as you can see, that modifies your sluggish economy by like +5. You start off with -25 across the board, I believe. And then, you know, as you take things, you go down. And as you can see now, it's -5. So that's pretty good for us, is it? And then you can have a trade agreement with Germany and all of that. Now, the more interesting stuff is this, the Nordic Council. But first, I'm going to take a look at the economy. There's nothing really all that difficult about all this stuff. So, reconstitute the Bank of Norway will decrease your sluggish economy. And then you can either have a progressive labor agreement or a conservative one. Not that much of a difference over there. And you come down to free education, all of that. However, you can also have an interesting stuff, which would be down to reforming the police. You also get the ability to spawn your own elite infantry division, the Black Devils, which is like the guard of the king. And there we are, Kungens Garde, and they're basically like the Führergarden, if you remember them from the nationalist tree. So you get your own cool stuff as Democrats as well. And the big interesting one is the Nordic Council. So the Treaty of Stockholm is something that can happen if all 3 Scandinavian countries are democratic by 1937. Although I believe it's dependent on something that Sweden does. And this is actually a part of the focus tree that's shared between these 3 countries. So you can see that in the Swedish focus tree there's the same sort of branch for the Nordic Council as there is in the Norwegian one, as there is in the Danish one. So this is a little bit like the Scandinavian Union, I guess you could say. So you have, of course, the process of Scandinavian unification that you start off with, and you get a lot of events explaining what's happening. So a Nordic Council. Every country in the Nordic Council gets an event to improve civilian factories in the other 2 countries, which is quite fine. Then you get the Scientist Conference, and that's a bonus for industry. You get Technological Cooperation, which unfortunately I don't have Together for Victory, so it doesn't do anything. Scandinavian Monetary Union, Construction Speed, Single Market, that's of course consumer goods and factory outputs. It also removes sluggish economy. That's good for us. Norwegian Airlines, production of planes, Passport Convention, So it's just, you know, you get the deal. Defense union, military acquisitions, just all the things that are gonna make you into one country. And voila. So you create the Nordic Federation and you're dead as Norway. But you become the Nordic Federation, you annex everybody else. And then you have, I believe, everyone's generals. No, you still have the Norwegian. No, actually this is a combination of some Norwegian generals, some Danish ones, and some Swedish ones. Although, I believe it would make more sense to have all the Norwegian, all the Danish, and all the Swedish ones. Whatever. See, the big kind of disappointment, I guess you could say, of this one, yeah, you have core states on all of the Scandinavian country-owned territories at the start. So this is pretty strong because, of course, it kind of removes the problem of manpower, because you go from 2 million eligible core population to 13 million. So that's pretty good. As you can see, core states everywhere. And you inherit a pretty large fleet, actually. Because you have the Swedish fleet, you have the Norwegian fleet, and you have the Danish fleet put together. So that's a lot of, especially submarines and cruisers. The big disappointment of the Nordic Federation is that you don't really have a lot of ministers. You do have companies, though. That's pretty cool. You do have companies. You do have not a lot of generals. And especially, and unfortunately, the focus tree is kind of like egg. Like the military stuff is, I guess, okay. Pretty okay. Some of these are not finished, and they kind of have problems, but it's just standard, nothing really too major. But not only you lose every national spirit that you had before, but also once you, you know, turn and have a new focus tree, unfortunately this Nordic foreign affairs stuff, it's not really all that well thought out, I guess you could say, because as you can see, like, most of this is just like political power that you gain in some way or not. The descriptions are not finished, so this is clearly like unfinished. As you can see, like the conquest of the Northern Islands, that doesn't give you anything. Baltic or Atlantic ambitions, plus 50 political power, 8 from Russia, plus 50 political power. So as you can see, most of these are just not finished. Although something that you can do is, well, of course, join one of the alliances, either with Russia or with Canada. If you join up with Canada, you get, I believe, wait, what? The return of our islands. Which islands? Canada doesn't control anything. Let me see. Oh, disabled. Sorry. I just want to see what that actually does. The alliance question. Join the Entente. The return of our... Oh. Oh, it's Greenland. Okay, so I guess it's if Canada occupied Greenland and Iceland, then you can return it. Okay, never mind. Then you have the Finnish question and the Schleswig question. Because, of course, since you are now Norway plus Sweden plus Denmark, you also have Sweden and Denmark's claims, aka Schleswig-Holstein and, well, Finland, which used to be part of Sweden. So, of course, Finnish question, you can either befriend them or antagonize them. SCA at them. Wait, what? They are at them. Oh, the formation. Oh, you actually have federal elections. I actually never played with this, so I don't actually know how it is in terms of like events. But apparently there's elections. Come on, give me elections. Okay, the first federal elections. So you either have Social Democrats, market liberals, or pan-Scandinavianists. So this is the at them one. So if you take the pan-Scandinavianists, you can take antagonize Finland. The second Åland crisis. The Åland crisis being when Sweden and Finland would fight over Åland, which is this little island chain, which used to be part of course, Sweden, because, well, Finland used to be part of Sweden, but then Eventually, Finland got annexed by Russia, and the islands over here were annexed as well. So, as you can see, they stayed part of Finland. This is true of our timeline as well, and actually, Åland is kind of an autonomous territory within Finland. So, it's actually a demilitarized zone, so the Finns cannot have any units here. So, yeah, you can have the second Åland crisis break out and liberate Finland, quote-unquote liberate Finland. So, if you have destroyed Finland in the war, because you get a war goal, if you have destroyed them, then you can liberate them, and after that, you can annex them. So pretty much what you'd expect. There's also a way to get them peacefully, befriend Finland, Northern Trade, Arctic Defense Treaty. The problem is, with Arctic Defense Treaty, you need to have Germany capitulated. I'm not exactly sure why, because it's not like Finland is part of the German sphere of influence. If anything, they're more closer to Russia in Kaiserreich. They start off as a puppet of Russia, I believe. And, you know, they declare independence when all the chaos is happening. Oh, God. Oh, God, that Russian Empire with the socialist revolutionaries in charge. Oh, my God. Anyway, yeah, so, of course, after you take them over, it's no problem. But if you're doing the peaceful path, and I'm peacefuling with many quotations, you can then federate with Finland, and that makes them join you. That makes them join you without, you know, any problems. But the problem is you need to have Germany capitulated. So you need to go down the Schleswig question. And what happens there is that you get a claim on North Schleswig, and then you demand it from Germany, and they, well, refuse every time. So you have to, you know, declare war. Or, well, you might not want to declare war on Germany. That would probably be a pretty good idea. But yeah, this is the Nordic Federation. Of course, it's quite awesome, you know, in terms of just sheer strength and all of that. It's just that there's a lot of things that have to go right for you to get the Nordic Federation. And yeah, so that's about it, I believe. So we started off with Norway, ended up with the Nordic Federation. Of course, the Nordic Federation is not unique to Norway. You can also get them, of course, as Sweden and Denmark. And in fact, I would think that Sweden would be the best to get the Nordic. Sorry, I just wanted to say Norwegian, but yeah, if you want to get the Nordic Federation, it's probably the best to go with Sweden, because the Treaty of Stockholm, I think, is an event that happens first with Sweden, and if Sweden refuses that, then nobody else gets to do that, because I've tried a few times to get it just organically, I guess you could say, naturally, but it never fired as an event for me as Norway. So I think that what happens is that unfortunately, like, Swedish AI likes to refuse this, and yeah, it's kind of sad. Anyway, let's see. Does this, like, do anything particularly strange? No, you're just liberals. The Høyre. Yeah, and you cannot actually get the Democratic mandate right off the bat. Just like you cannot get the People's Constitution or the consolidation of power right off the bat. You need to wait until, well, for the two extremes, you need to wait until, like, the little coup happens in the middle of Oslo. With the Democratic mandate, you need to wait for this, yeah, the opening of the 85th Stirring, and that would be the government, I believe, and then you can take Democratic mandate. So after that, democracy is saved, and everyone's happy, except the syndicalists and the nationalists. And yeah, anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this Norway overview, breakdown, whatever you want to call it. If I've made any mistakes, as always, feel free and be sure to, you know, chastise me down below. And yeah, I hope you'll enjoy with Norway. By the way, I do have a playthrough as Norway, so shameless self-promotion time. You can go ahead and check it out on my channel. It's pretty cool. I am playing as the Nationalist Norway, or rather, I was playing as the Nationalist Norway. And so you get to see my lovely journey to Greater Norway. And by the way, yeah, you can change your name to Greater Norway, because nothing says, you know, humility like changing the name of your country to Greater X. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed that as well. And if you have already, well, good for you. Have a good day. Hope you've enjoyed.